Hello, TNL fans. I'm here to talk about the Miami game. Talk about UNC a little bit. I have not posted a video in a while. Hopefully, you kept up with me. I posted a couple articles talking about the college football playoff rankings and why I found them problematic. I'll be talking about that more in a few minutes. Um, Pretty much talk about the Miami game, things to take away from the Miami game, ranking thoughts, and scouting report on the Virginia Tech. So let's start with things to take away from the Miami game. Carolina won 59-21. They were up 45-0 before Miami scored any points. Just dominant performance. And the amazing part from that game really feeds into my first point. Duke game, we were out here just hurling the ball across the field. We were out here looking like Baylor, just passing the ball all over the place, like Washington State. This week, the last week against Miami, Miami's defense decided we're not giving you that. So the deep balls were just not happening. But all of a sudden, we just started having Marquise running, and that opened up a lot of plays because all of a sudden they had the honor Marquise. So all of a sudden, running lanes opened up for Elijah Hood and TJ Logan, and eventually Charles Brunson. We had a field day running the football. I think we ran for 286 rushing yards, somewhere in that neighborhood. Just phenomenal. That game's it was really keyed by the defense because our offense was not doing well early, I guess, while they were in their script, but our defense kept turning over the football. Well, one was really Miami. It was really their fault because that snap, I don't know who the snapper was snapping to. Like, did they put their long snapper in or something? The ball just flew out of Brad Kaya's reach, and we got it. So that really stemmed things. But from there, everything just fell into place. So that was good. Yeah, point number one being our offense is versatile. One week we can come out and pass all over the yard, and the very next week we can run all over you. Fedora's philosophy has always been take what the defense gives you. And when you have an offense that's capable of doing a really good job in rushing and passing, chances are you're not going to be able to take away both. So you take away one, we're going to do the other, and we're probably going to do it well. We have big receivers, we have fast receivers, and we have an O-line that has dramatically improved from last season. That really keys everything because last year's O-line was so inconsistent, and there were games where they just got pushed around, and those were the games where our offense didn't do well. But the games where they did do well, and really the season in general, they've held up extremely well, and all possibilities are available for the Tar Heels offensively. So, point one, our offense is versatile. Point number two, the team chemistry. The phases, they really feed off of each other this season. Like, if the offense is playing extremely well, the defense feeds off of it. If the defense is playing really well, the offense feeds off of it. And special teams, they'll jump in every now and then. Like, at the beginning, not the beginning, the end of the first half last week, Ryan Switzer had a punt return right before halftime. That's the second week in a row we had a late score. So they're really feeding off of each other, and I like it. There's the chemistry. I just haven't seen a team with this kind of chemistry in football probably since I've been there. And I think the amazing part about this team and why I'm not really concerned going forward in games, we have leadership in all the right spots. Our quarterback, Marquise, our middle linebacker, Jeff Schottmer, offensive lineman, we have a redshirt senior just playing his behind off, and Landon Turner. Shaquille Rashad has been ridiculous out there. And the secondary, key by Des Lawrence, we have leadership in all the right positions. So that's why I'm not concerned when it comes to intangibles with these games going forward. Because we have the kind of guys that are not going to let this team start feeling themselves. Well, really, why should they be feeling themselves? Because even though the AP poll has us 12, the committee says we're 17, we're still not getting enough respect. Carolina's been disrespected for 3 weeks now. But let me get to that in a second. Third point is, really, the back end of this schedule, these last three games set up really well because what we have now is a revenge tour. If you can recall from last season, Miami got the better of us. They pushed us around. I think the score is 47-20. Um, Virginia Tech pushed us around at home. We lost that game 34-17. I think it was 21-0 before we could even put up points. And then State came and pushed us around, and they scored the first 35 points before we put up a pity 7 at the end. So our offensive line, our lines, really both lines, got pushed all around the field. And I know they cannot wait to get on the field this week and next week to just set the tone. Last week against Miami, they showed up and they wore Miami out. So the schedule really set up well. Honestly, if you want to take this revenge tour a step further, a win against either Virginia Tech or State will set up a game against Clemson in Charlotte for the ACC title. And Clemson, if you recall last season, they beat us 50-35. I think the score was 22-7 early on. And that was the game where Deshaun Watson had his first start. That was the game where he just threw for all the touchdowns on us. So that in and of itself could be a revenge tour stop. But for the time being, we have enough revenge on our hands. Virginia Tech is the goal set in mind. We have not won the Coastal yet, so I know they're ready for it. Okay, let's talk about this ranking real quick. The rankings came out Tuesday night. Carolina was 17. And when I first saw us at 17, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought that we would probably be 17 or higher based on what happened last week. Now, what made me irate was when I started to see the teams that were in front of us. Not only that, but the explanations for why UNC is 17 as compared to other teams in the rankings. All of that was problematic and unacceptable. First of all, let's start with those Navy and those two lost teams in front of Carolina. Navy has beaten nobody. Their best win is against Memphis. We still don't know who Memphis is or what Memphis is. Memphis just went to Houston, had a 20-point fourth-quarter lead, and allowed a backup quarterback to come back and win. That was Memphis. Okay, LSU is not playing good football. They got blown out against Bama, and then they let Arkansas come to Death Valley for a night game, mind you, and blow them out. LSU is not playing good football right now. FSU lost 2 games. One of those games was a loss to a 3-7 Georgia Tech team. That is terrible. And the amazing part is when they talk about North Carolina, they always bring up our loss to South Carolina in week 1 and how South Carolina's not playing well. But in that sense, how can you say that and then have Florida State at 14 when they lost 2 games and one of them is to 3-7 Georgia Tech? Never mind the fact Oklahoma up there at number 7, they lost to a terrible Texas team. So they have lost their minds with that. Going on down the list, Michigan has needed Jesus to win their games. Like, all their games have been close. I think they need a couple overtimes to beat Indiana. Minnesota, it took a goal line stand, so it was ridiculously close. I mean, Michigan's winning games, but we don't know what we're getting from Michigan. Their games are ridiculously close. And Utah's still up and down. I don't know what I'm getting from Utah. Utah was like the big deal early on when they were like 5-0, 6-0. And then they went to Utah and they were really forgotten, really. We don't know what we're getting. The only thing we knew about Utah is they play defense well and their special teams. Like, their coach, they don't beat themselves. That's what we know about Utah. But they've been so up and down. You can't tell me that these teams that I mentioned are playing better football than UNC. Maybe Navy, but look at Navy's schedule and look at Carolina's schedule. Like I said, I posed a question to my Facebook friends yesterday and said, I want y'all to name me 16 teams that are playing better football than UNC. After all, these rankings are not supposed to be like a poll where after every week you move people who lost down and move everybody who wins up. That's not the way it's supposed to work. By that line of thought, yeah, UNC probably should be round 17. These rankings are supposed to be about what are the best 25 teams in the country. And Carolina is playing much better football than that 17 number shows. Like I said, you can't name 16 teams that are playing better football than Carolina right now. You can't. You can't. I'll wait. If you can name 16, let me know. Leave a comment. Just let me know. If you can name 16 teams playing better football than Carolina right now, let me know. I'm still waiting on that. But there's that. I mentioned the South Carolina loss in week one. First of all, it was week one. Second of all, we dominated that game. If it wasn't for 3 turnovers, we would have won. It was a bad loss, but it was week one. It was week one. That's like telling the 2005 basketball team, you lost to Santa Clara, you can't go to the NCAAs. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent. Holding that week one loss against us is not smart. And like I said, just last week they were telling Stanford winning 8 straight games is impressive in the committee's eyes. Well, here Carolina is won 9 straight, and all we got is 17. It's not only that we won, it's how we won. And it's not that we just feasted on FCS teams. Even though there's 2 on our schedule, just look at how we played against FBS teams. Keep A&T and Delaware out of it. Look at how we played against Wake, how we played against Miami, how we played against Duke, how we played against Pitt, how we played against Illinois. I mean, seriously. When people say that Carolina played 2 FCS teams and that's why we're ranked 17, that tells me that you have not watched Carolina play this season. That tells me that the only thing you've done is look at a sheet of paper with the name of our opponents on it. And if you do that, then you seriously don't know how well Carolina is playing. Because eye test is important. Eye test is the reason why we got away from the BCS to this human committee. But this committee has not watched Carolina play since September 3rd. It is clear. It is clear. And these rankings, to me, they look like as far as Carolina's concerned, they're treating us like a poll. Like, our movement is completely dependent on who loses. Because you cannot tell me there's 16 teams playing better football than Carolina right now. You can't. You can't. Okay, we'll get off of that a little bit. Now we're going to talk about the Virginia Tech scouting report. And the interesting part in my research is I can't get a good read on Virginia Tech. Well, I don't have a good read on them defensively. Because the last few weeks they played incompetent offenses. Like Georgia Tech, in that game, I watched parts of that game. Georgia Tech was just stubborn. Triple option is what they do. But when Virginia Tech had moves for that triple option, Georgia Tech did not have answers. That and Georgia Tech runs an unconventional offense. So I can't make anything of that. BC's offense is terrible. Remember earlier in the season, Wake Forest went up there and won by a score of 3-0. BC had double the yardage of Wake, but scored 0 points. So BC is out. When you go back to the Duke game, Duke had plenty of success on VT. And I don't remember Duke's offense being a juggernaut. Like, it's decent. It'll get the job done. It's not a juggernaut. Duke had 270 yards passing in that game against Virginia Tech. And I forget, but well over 100 yards rushing. Same with Miami. Miami did not have the rushing yards, but they passed for nearly 300 yards against Virginia Tech's defense. So there's room to eat against this defense. This vaunted defense, the key to it is that Bud Foster is going to find some game plan to try to confuse our quarterback. But what really messed us up last season was the fact that our O-line could not block to save their lives in that particular game. And this O-line is completely different from that O-line. So what I expect is our offense to give Marquise time, and I expect our offense to figure it out, what Virginia Tech's trying to take away, and then exploit what they're giving us. Because there's room to eat against Virginia Tech's defense. Like I said, the Fedora mentality is to take what they give you. So I'm not really concerned on that. As long as our offense take care of the football, we'll be fine. Defense. Virginia Tech's offense, for as long as I've known watching Virginia Tech football, has always been low watt. It's a low watt offense. They don't do anything flashy. They kind of hold on to the football. Frank Beamer is about possession and playing defense and great special teams. So the offense is nothing special. Now, you can imagine that their game plan this week will probably be to try to run the football on us and control the clock that way. Because our defense does give up a lot of rushing yards. But here's the key to why that game plan is much easier to say by looking at our numbers than do. Because when you commit to rushing the football over and over and over again, all our defense needs is one good play to either knock you behind the line of scrimmage or keep you at the line of scrimmage. All of a sudden, you're behind the chains, and it's to our advantage. That's the key to rush defense. It's to keep this other team behind the chains. All we need is one good play. That's the problem why. That's the reason why you'll see our numbers and you're not going to run over and over and over again, because eventually we're going to get behind the line of scrimmage. We're going to knock you out for a 2-yard loss, and that will change everything for what you have to do offensively for the next couple plays. So they can try that all they want. We'll see what happens. But that offense is not scaring me. Our defense just needs to make sure that Virginia Tech gets no points for the yards that they do get between the 20s. Let's see. The Vegas thing. The Vegas line came out, and UNC was initially favored by 6.5 points. I just did a check, and that number went down to 5.5. Now, I think at this point we all know that the reason why this number is low is because it's Frank Beamer's last home game. Because if that's not factored in, I think UNC's favored by 9-10 points. Like, our team has the goods this year, and Virginia Tech's team does not. So, with all that emotion and intangibles, that got factored in, and I guess some people are slobbering into those intangibles as well because they got the number down. But here's the thing about great teams and emotion. Great teams can out-execute emotion. Carolina can easily go in there and take the air out of that place. And another thing about emotion is you can get too involved in emotion. Virginia Tech can be so emotional about that home loss that they're fatigued and stuff, that they're overthinking it. And Carolina will exploit that too. So we can talk about Frank Beamer's last home game and all that junk all we want. Carolina's on a mission. And good teams will out-execute that emotional stuff. So Virginia Tech's going to come correct. They're going to execute because emotion is not going to be enough on itself to win Saturday. We'll see. I like where Carolina's going. I like Carolina by a couple of scores. I like us by more than the Vegas line, 7+. So we'll see how that game goes. That's pretty much all I have to say. This is a couple minutes longer than my usual TNL videos, but I haven't been here in a while, so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. We'll see what happens this Saturday. Our Heels go to Lane Stadium to play the Virginia Tech Hokies in Frank Beamer's last home game. It's a noon game, and it'll be televised on ESPN. Go Heels, beat VT, win the Coastal.